What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Carter here with Edge Mindset. I have the first official Strider unboxing with the new MSC Mixed Strider Custom mat here. This is the first time now, kind of. I attempted an unboxing the other day and it failed and I deleted it. So this is the first real unboxing and it should be kind of a doozy. I am really excited to get into this guy. Mainly, how do I want to open this? I was just going to rip open the top here, but I think it's probably taped to the inside. And so I don't want to cause any problems. Now, normally I would come in at the bottom here, but I was kind of lazy and didn't cover up my address information and thought I would just do it the opposite direction, but then that kind of makes it hard to open. Let's see if that'll work. What do we got here? I have had a doozy of a day today, guys, ladies and gentlemen. I had a root canal at 8 a.m. this morning. So if I'm talking a little weird, it's because I've still got some numbing stuff going on. There we go. It wasn't taped to the inside. So this is pretty cool. I hope this is pretty cool, because this is a knife that is high in demand and much anticipated for a long time. And I got it for a pretty good deal, so hopefully it's good. Hopefully everything on it's good. That is it, ladies and gentlemen. We have a Double Gunner Grip. Boom. The world famous Double Gunner Grip from Strider Knives. All right, that's it. That's the end of the video. No, just kidding, guys. We're going to talk about this. So why is this cool? Why is it important? Now, obviously, if you don't care for Striders, you know, it's not going to mean much to you. But the Double Gunner Grip is kind of the quintessential Strider knife, right? It's very unique. Nobody else really does this kind of pattern. It's a little bit infamous. Even when these first came out in the mid-2000s, well, not first came out, but when these were available back in the day, a lot of people didn't like them because this texture, as you can imagine, just tears your jeans to shreds. But they quit making these when Strider Inc. kind of quit existing and Strider split into Dwyer Custom Goods and Mixed Strider Custom Knives and all that stuff. They quit making the Double Gunner Grips for a long time, and people missed them, and so the old ones got really, really valuable and hard to find. And it's kind of ironic because, like I mentioned before, a lot of people didn't like the Double Gunner Grips when they were available. They actually preferred the concealed carry with the contoured scales. But since then, the Double Gunner Grip has kind of become, I don't know, just an interesting, like, people love it and they're hard to find, or they were hard to find, and super valuable and super in demand. What's steel we? Ooh, Magna Cut. Yeah, buddy. Super in demand. But this year, Double Gunner Grips came back. Now, I did own one of the new Double Gunner Grips, but it wasn't like this. It was double titanium with no backspacer, right? It's kind of like similar to how they do on the Performance series, but it had the regular hardware, the regular pivot, but it was, it was Double Gunner Grip, all tie. This is the first time they have the old school single piece G10, right? So just like the Lego version with the Double Gunner Grip on this side and this side. And this is the old school pattern. You can see how it has kind of a diamond pattern instead of like, some of you might be saying, wait a minute, I've seen Gunner Grips on Striders recently. You've seen what they call the hybrid, where the front scale is Gunner Grip and then the back is flat. But even on those, the pattern wasn't like the old school pattern. I don't have an example of those, but it's more of a rounded type pattern instead of this kind of chain link diamond pattern. So this is the old school pattern on here. I mean, this is just like an old school Strider SnG Double Gunner Grip, but in Magna Cut and 3/4 ground, which I really, really like. Very, very cool. Even though I got a killer deal on this thing, and it is perfect, it's almost centered, like basically centered. Not collector centered like Medford used to say, but it is actually centered. Early lockup. I mean, this thing is a nice example, and I got it for a good deal. Still very, very expensive, but I got it for a good deal considering how expensive these things are. Really glad to have this back in the collection. Let's get a weight on this, because these are surprisingly light. And if you get the blade, that's the full flat ground blade, like the old school full flat ground blade, it's even lighter because the blade is less heavy. But 4 ounces. 4 ounces. That is not bad for this size of a knife. Let's compare it to a Paramilitary 2. Paramilitary 2, you can see close to the same size. The Strider, I don't know. I mean, they're pretty dang close. I think the Strider has it by just a couple millimeters of overall length, but pretty much the same thing. So that's about the size you're looking for. But 4 ounces for a titanium frame lock and a thick stock blade like this, that's because Striders are one of the most efficient knives in terms of weight and size, if that makes sense, that you can kind of get, like, you know, and I don't think they get as much credit as they deserve. Very minimal parts, you know, compared to traditional other knives. You can see even this like pocket clip right here, single screw. They use this dovetail piece into this hole here to keep it from moving back and forth. So single screw, no thumb studs, uses the thumb hole. The stop pins are pressed in, so they don't come unscrewed. There's no additional screw in there. Very minimal parts on here, and very, very lightweight for the size of knife you're getting. And like I said, if this was full flat ground, it would be even lighter. I think a lot of people kind of lump Striders inappropriately into the whole super heavy-duty, overbuilt knife thing, which, I mean, they are, but I think they think they're going to be obnoxiously heavy if they get them. And they're always surprised, especially with the SnG, not only how light they are, how carryable they are, but in that full flat ground blade, how slicey they are. Now, this one is still reasonably thin behind the edge. I mean, but this is meant more for being kind of a big bruiser. It's hollow ground, so it does get a little thinness there. But because of how thick that stock is and how short that bevel is, you know, this thing is meant to take some abuse and some use. Now, I don't know if this has been kind of stropped or used or anything like that. I don't think so, but it does kind of almost look like it could be. But either way, this thing is absolutely stunning. I love that stonewash pocket clip on there. And this just reminds me of the first video where I ever saw a Strider, and it was Dark Child. That's the name of the account, Dark Child 52 or something like that. He was showing off a Strider. It was a Double Gunner Grip SnG, and it looked way bigger because he has way smaller hands than me. So like in his video, it almost looks like an SMF, but it's an SnG. It did kind of warp my sense of how big they are. But that was the first time I had ever seen a Strider, and I was blown away because at that point, I'd never seen a knife that was like this, right? That was like military surplus looking, where it wasn't like paint and like bright plastic, you know, like a Spyderco and things like that, where there wasn't crazy branding all over the blade and all this stuff, like this very subdued stamped markings on here. And the old school ones were even more subdued than this. It just really said Strider. And I don't know if his had the Boss heat stamp on it. I don't think so. And it probably just said S30V with the little FWP logo on there. But I was blown away, and I was like, I want to get one of those. So the first place I went was Amazon. Looked it up on Amazon. Couldn't find it. Strider knives didn't exist on Amazon. Then I went to Blade HQ. And of course, this was before Blade HQ had things like Striders. Back in this day, Blade HQ was still kind of a budget site. Now, it wasn't the most budgety site. That was a site that they also owned called bladeplay.com. It's now called Grindworks. So there's a little bit of history for you guys. The original kind of, well, first of all, if you don't know, Grindworks is the budget site for Blade HQ. But Grindworks used to be called bladeplay.com, which, you know, it's not the best name to choose, right? Because it's like, okay, do all the knives you're selling here have blade play? Like, what's going on here? Probably why they changed it, I don't know, but they changed it to Grindworks. Back in those days, Blade HQ didn't have, like, expensive microtechs and stuff. I mean, it was still kind of, like, mid to lower end. It wasn't like the novelty $5 knives that Grindworks and Blade Play kind of had. You know, they had better stuff than that too, but, you know, it had Bokers and some Spydercos and stuff, but they didn't have any of the nice stuff. So I went there, no Strider knives, went to Amazon, no Strider knives, trying to Google it, couldn't find any information on it. Very hard to track down. I think it added to kind of the mystery of Striders. And then, of course, once I finally found a site that sold Striders, I was like, oh, I could never afford that. That's insane. Who would ever pay that much money for a knife? That's bonkers. Flash forward 6 months, I had like 4 of them. So, you know, that's how things kind of go. But anyways, I've rambled on long enough. Strider, Double Gunner Grip, SnG, back in action, new production in Magna Cut. Beautiful stuff, beautiful stuff. All right, guys, talk to you later. Catch you in the next video.